Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is, wherever you are. I'm hopefully guessing that you can hear us. There's been some issues with the Spaces recordings this morning. But as usual, this is the grain market blast with myself and the amazing Angie Setzer, where Angie will be provided a rapid roundup of latest pricing flows and market moving news in agricultural markets. But before she does, I best get the legals out of the way because otherwise Angie will tell me off, and she is a stern mistress. So as usual, nothing discussed in this Spaces session constitutes trading or investment advice or infers any kind of endorsement by PIQ, Trades PIQ or PIQ Suite, or indeed that of the hosts, which is myself, Mr. Ryan Paisley, and of course the awesome Angie Setzer.
Literally laughed out loud at the stern mistress comment. That was great. That was awesome. I appreciate it. Happy Wednesday, or
Happy
as we're
Liberation Day.
yes, let's Libation Day, Liberation Day, same thing, only different. Yeah, so here we are, market wise here. For those of you that aren't sitting here glued to the screen, waiting for every development possible. We got corn down just a couple on the December board, 4 on the May board. Beans are down about 7.5 after being up big yesterday. November beans are down about 5. Again, they were up about 20 yesterday. Wheat's off a little bit here. Kansas City's up. And yeah, yeehaw, giddy up. What are we paying
Yeah.
attention to today? I feel like there's nothing to talk about, Ryan. I don't
Well, yeah,
know.
exactly. It's like,
So,
pub. That's-
yeah, perfect time for spaces to go down for sure. Twitter this morning kept telling me it was over capacity. I'm like, get in line. I've been over capacity since 2018. I don't know what to tell you. But okay, focus wise, everyone wants to kind of know what happened in soybeans yesterday. Like we said, they were up about 20 cents yesterday. So let's talk a little bit about something that isn't trade related potentially. It
Yeah.
is the administration's approach to biofuels. And we've seen some positive things kind of coming out of this space. We've talked about it for a bit here. Monday we got that press release from the USDA talking about the program that they were throwing out there, $540 million for 540 different projects across the country. And to me, the biggest thing that I saw that I took from it, was the background in the press release where they kind of outlined that the USDA is going to do all that they can to push for higher blending rates. So, of diesel made from biomass, they're going to try to help support year-round E15. And really kind of without saying it, but maybe they did say it. It was like, all right, well, the Green New Deal, that portion of the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, like we're going to roll that back, most of that back, or at the very least, a lot of this funding that appeared to have been allocated for, this climate smart farming practices that the Biden administration had put together, looks like it might get rolled more into supporting biofuels potentially or something like that. Now, I'm speaking a little probably out into the future, and I'm not really saying it from an industry insider sort of standpoint. But I've always argued that biofuels are the lowest hanging fruit for any government to help support farmers
Yeah.
while also, arguing that they're lowering energy costs, whether you want to argue, whether you want to say that is true or not. To me, to support biofuels in a big way makes sense out of this administration, with all that they're trying to accomplish. And
Right.
so yesterday there was a meeting of the new RFS coalition, big oil and renewable,
So
big
yeah,
renewable. Yeah.
big oil who are no longer the enemy. They're now our
Yes,
friend.
they're our friend. We love them.
We've always loved you.
We always have. We always have. I don't know what you're talking about. We've always, but anyway, yeah, so we're going hand in hand to the EPA at this point in time, and kind of requesting these higher blends. And so if we see a higher blend, like we were talking about it yesterday, I was trying to put the math together. I'm not a very good math person. And so it's hard for me, but it would be a sharp jump to see these blend rates that they're talking about, but to have it be paired with a double whammy potentially of soybean oil
Wowee.
or other feedstock imports being tariffed as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we're pushing India and some of these others to really increase the amount of soybean oil that they're buying. We could go from what is, oh my gosh, let's put together a rest in peace crush industry, to holy, where did all this demand come from?
Yeah.
And so we got to be watching that close because that's huge. So point one, outside of trade, and in all honestly, it's kind of tied into trade as well, because one of the things that the administration is pushing is buying more U.S. made energy products, which includes ethanol, biodiesel, renewable diesel, these types of things. And so
Yeah.
we'll be watching that. That was helpful yesterday. You saw soybean oil rally in a big way. You saw beans kind of follow. And then really, much of today and all of today's focus is going to be on what happens this afternoon.
Yes.
And I just, I cannot say enough. Like a lot of the hyperbolic or the really exaggerated sort of, oh my god, if this happens, this is the result. A lot of these theories are based on the really really bad, wide uh, blanket tariffs on $3 trillion worth of goods at 25% plus. Like I saw something this morning that was kind of talking about tariff rates in different countries, and if those
Yeah.
rates were recognized, like yeah, we're screwed. Like, oh,
Well,
that's
this
not
is
gonna be
it.
good.
This is
Like,
it. There's just so many variables out there at the moment. And let's be honest, until last night, it was well, I say last night UK time, when the Wall Street Journal came out with apparently there's now a third option on the table, which is less than 20% for certain countries with like little compartmentalizing um,
right?
a group. And yeah, and you almost bet the farm right now that there's every likelihood Trump is sat in front of about 4 or 5 options, and even he doesn't know which one he's going to pick yet.
I
So
would say at this point in time, yeah, that's
people
the
trying to
case.
tell you exactly what's happening, exactly what the tariff's going to be. Just you need to avoid them because, like I said, the people making the decisions, I'm almost certain, don't know what decision they're going to make yet.
I feel like there is still conversation that is going to be had until
Absolutely,
3:55 p.m. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And so
Well,
I
then, just so
agree.
just on this, sorry, just on this is like
Yes.
so. This morning or last night, whenever it was, whichever time zone you're in,
Yeah.
they decided to move the start of what will be no doubt a very lengthy speech by the president from 3 p.m. Eastern time to 4 p.m. Eastern time. Now, obviously, 3
Yes.
p.m. is an hour before the close, so a lot of people were going, "Oh my God, he's moved it because it's going to be really, really bad." Why would he move it to after the close? You know, let's be honest, it was ridiculous to have him talking whilst the market was open. I think it's just some, common sense has prevailed, and they're like, do you know what? Let's just do
Yes.
this after the market is closed. It's not a sign that it's going to be good or bad. It's just the fact that regardless, let's move it until after the market is closed to give us a bit of breathing space.
Yes. Did you see the Tracy Alloway shared this morning though that the
Yes.
the timeline has that the global markets react? And so I was like, yes, you gotta love that, we have this timeline we have, and I think you're right. And I do, yes, the tiered option. So there's three different options that everyone's talking about, right? We've got the tiered option, that's kind of like what you're talking about with the newer one. That put people into buckets and their tariff
Yes.
rate would depend on their bucket in which they are placed. And no one really knows who would get put in what bucket yet. So
There's a
that's
hole in
fun.
my bucket.
Right, dear Liza, dear Liza. I used to have a dog named Liza, fun fact. But anyway, I used to sing that to her. But and so, when it comes down to it, like today to me feels like it's going to be the culmination of, oh my God, what is going to happen? And then tomorrow we can kind of, come out from underneath the dirt and kind of recognize, okay, so this is the plan, this is what we're doing, this is how people are reacting. I'm not going to say that it automatically gets better tomorrow
No.
morning, but
Well,
I would venture that we're not going to have this 25%
no,
blanket rate
absolutely.
because it feels too
Yeah.
damaging. And I think that's what the market is
Yes.
counting on.
Also, something to bear in mind as well is like, Europe, the EU bloc, UK, Japan, South Korea, all these they've had lots of time to kind of come up with multiple responses depending on the scenario that's needed.
Yes, we probably got a
So
flow chart, I would
well,
imagine.
this is
I
it. Like some flow diagrams, right? He said this, we got to say this. But the thing
Yeah,
is,
if
as well,
this
we
happens, then
know
this.
that Trump is going to go on for a long time talking tonight. Okay, well, this evening. Um, there's every chance that you're going to be looking at the screens, hopefully looking at PIQ's platform, because obviously it's the best place to follow news.
Definitely.
And you're going to see multiple headlines, especially on Twitter and such, X, whatever we're calling it, um, quotes from Trump. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised if he talks for so long that we start getting headlines coming out from the other nations
Yes.
retaliating or at least like answering back to him. So it's going to be
Yes.
incredibly messy. Anyone that's looking to kind of try and stay on top of it. If you don't have to be in the market, and we did say this
Don't.
yesterday, don't
Yeah.
be in the market. Or I would
I
almost suggest turn off social media, turn off everything, and come back like an hour after he started talking, and you might have some idea of what's going on.
Yeah, my recommendation, obviously farmers aren't going to be able to
Pub.
do this, but like my recommendation is, like order Mexican food for a late afternoon, like
Yes.
nice meal and, park yourself in front of Twitter. Maybe that's what I'm just planning on doing, but you guys can
Mhm.
join me. It's fun, grab a margarita. But no, I mean honestly, when it comes down to it, like I do I feel like the unknown is always the scariest, no
Yes,
matter
of
what. And
course.
right now we're almost at peak unknown with all of this. We have ideas, we have concepts, we have things that could come from these ideas and concepts, reactions and different things. And so yes, let's all be a little nervous or whatever if you want to be. I think you can't control it, so you might as well just toss, whatever nerves you can out the window. Because everything that we're talking about today will be a little clearer as we get into the first part of next week. And
Yeah.
really, if you read anything on what this is from the inside of the administration or the advisors, this is just a starting point anyway.
Yeah,
So
no,
I
exactly
don't
that.
know. Like I don't
This is
know
it,
if
I
what the thought
think
was is maybe
basically
everyone
the
would.
only upside, potentially upside we have from later on is we at least know where the US is starting from.
Yes.
But then that's when the fun begins, and then it's back and forth. And also, there was a comment yesterday, I think it was Lutnick or whoever it was, or Bezant, Lutnick or Bezant said, yeah, probably Lutnick, that said this is the cap on the tariffs, which he's
Yes,
referring
it was
to.
Lutnick.
Now everyone got a bit
No, it
excited
was
about that.
Vicent that said that. I'm sorry. Yeah, it was
Oh, sorry,
Vicent,
yeah,
I think, that
yeah.
said that. Yeah.
But he said so. He used the word the cap. Now
Yeah,
people
this
got a
would be
bit
the highest.
excited. Yeah, people got a bit excited about that and saying, okay, well look, that means they're not going any higher than 20% or whatever. But reading a bit further into it, what he's saying is that was the cap for retaliatory tariffs. Now that does not include doubling down, like bringing out the Uno plus two tariff card, because we've already
Right.
seen that with China and such, with other nations where Trump said, right, you're having your 25% or your 20% on retaliatory tariffs, but also because you've been a naughty boy and because you've answered back to me, you're going to have another 20% on this. So that 20%, that cap, air quotes again, that no one can see, is purely related to the retaliation or retaliatory tariffs. So it does leave the door open for them to add more, but in a different type of tariff on top of. Again, I'm having
Yes.
to resort to thinking about it in terms of Uno. So if they throw the Uno plus two at, say, China,
Draw four, reverse
yeah,
draw four.
exactly.
Y'all are in trouble if that happens. No, I agree. And now speaking of China, that brings me
Oh,
to the next interesting point.
perfect.
And I think opens the door to kind of one of the things that we really know we're going to see after today, which is
Yeah.
conversations about what it will take to change whatever levels we're looking at for the most part. And China has published two different pieces in their state, like the China People's Daily or whatever, kind of as the voice of China, which tends to
Mouthpiece
be,
of the political
you know,
bureau.
Beijing, yes. And they said on Monday they were pointing out Apple and another Tesla and the importance of how Apple and Tesla and U.S. enterprises has worked with Chinese workers, and that it's super important in the tech industry to have this cooperation. And then yesterday or overnight, last night, they put out an article where they highlighted the importance of U.S. China cooperation in agriculture. And so, one of the things, this was a quote from the article: Chinese demand for high quality agricultural products is expected to grow rapidly. Agricultural cooperation between China and the U.S. will present broader opportunities in an open market. It is hoped that the U.S. will engage with China, addressing differences through dialogue and consultation to foster a positive environment for agricultural cooperation.
Yeah.
This will allow for farmers and consumers in both countries to continue benefiting and contribute, blah, 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 blah. So, obviously China is still like, hey, talk to us. We know that we didn't do the whole phase one thing all the way through, but we'd love to revisit it if that's what it takes to have you calm down. And that's kind of been the private sort of background conversation. And so hopefully after we get this stuff out today too, that'll open the door to greater conversation or communication between Trump and China, because right now we've just had low level conversation.
Yeah.
And their Chinese representatives are expressing frustration, which I think is part of the game, right? Like,
Yeah. No,
uh,
absolutely.
we want you to be frustrated because you're going to be so excited just at what, like as soon as we show you a kernel of attention, you're going to be like, hell yes, let's talk about this. So it'll be
He
interesting
looked
to
in my
see.
direction.
Exactly, like the playing hard to get sort of thing. Terrible at it. I'm not. Yeah, but anyway, it's one of those deals where it'll just be interesting to see. And I feel like after today, we can pull this sort of what is it? I can't even think of it all of a sudden. I lost my word. But we can just kind of pull this unknown out of the whole entire market structure. The sliver. That's what it feels like. Like when you get a piece of wood stuck in your hand, and it's just uncomfortable, and it's not really. All of these things you get pulled out, you just feel better and can move on, start to heal. I feel like that's kind of what it is like we can figure out what as long as they stick with it, figure out what the administration is leaning towards and start to negotiate from there. So yeah, big day today, even bigger day in the morning when we know what it is and
This is it.
how folks are starting to react. But for now, risk off. Everyone's going to kind of move to the sidelines and grain and just about anything. And who can blame them? Like that's if there's stuff floating around. Like I think this morning I saw something where it's like 80% tariffs on China. That's not going to happen. But
No,
obviously, if it did, it'd be a shit show. So
yeah, this is it. This is it.
that's where we
Exactly that.
stand.
And this is why it's incredibly important, even more so than usual, to tune into our show tomorrow to find out what the current state of play is. Not that it will stay the current state of play for very long, but we'll do what we can.
It'll be important for at least those 15 minutes that we're here.
It's guaranteed until you walk off the car lot.
100%. So that's
Perfect.
what slaps it. You can fit so many tariffs in here.
Perfect.
So, all right.
Angie, thank you so much as always. You're an absolute star. Listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. We apologize for the Spaces meltdown. It wasn't our fault. It was Elon Musk /X.
Yeah.
Like we said, if you are trading today, keep it tight. If you are out working in the fields or wherever you are, please stay safe. And we'll see you all tomorrow. Goodbye.
Have a good one.